The next part of the freedom of movement guidelines to review is contact on screens. This first play is an example of an illegal screen set against a moving opponent as the highlighted offensive player, Bam Adebayo, does not give his opponent, DeJounte Murray, an opportunity to avoid the contact, and an illegal screen was correctly called. To be considered legal, the screener must get directly into his opponent's path and give him the opportunity to avoid contact. This next play is an example of a legal screen set in a pick and roll situation. Keep your eye on the highlighted offensive player, Billy Hernangomez. Hernangomez sets a legal screen in the path of the moving defender, Aaron Gordon. To be considered legal, the screener must get directly into his opponent's path and give him the opportunity to avoid contact. Hernangomez met both of these criteria, and thus this play should not have been ruled an offensive foul. Watch this next play closely. The highlighted offensive player, LeBron James, moves to set a screen, but he then extends both arms and he pushes the on-ball defender, Monte Morris, in the back. This illegal contact clearly affects Morris's ability to play defense, and the offensive foul was called correctly by the trail official. The final example in this section involves a screen set in a dribble handoff. The highlighted offensive player, Kristaps Porzingis, hands the ball off to his teammate, Kyle Kuzma, but he then extends his backside into the path of the trailing defender, Alex Caruso. Porzingis does not give Caruso the opportunity to avoid the contact here, and the offensive foul was correctly called. Next, let's review some examples involving the transition take foul rule. Here, the defensive player, Karis LeVert, does not make a legitimate attempt at the ball, and instead he effectively gives up on the play by wrapping up the dribbler, Lauri Markkanen. This is correctly ruled a transition take foul. The next play in this section will show an example of a defensive foul that should have been ruled a transition take foul. The defensive player here, Paul Reed, fouls his opponent, Franz Wagner, immediately after Wagner gains possession, but before Wagner has the opportunity to advance the ball. While this was ruled a common foul in the game, the proper ruling should have been a transition take foul. Next, we will see a defensive foul in transition occurring off the ball that is not a transition take foul. The highlighted defensive player, Isaiah Jackson, grabs his opponent, Kelly Olynyk, in an effort to slow Olynyk's progress. While this is a clear defensive foul on Jackson, please note that this is a basketball play, as Jackson has not given up on the play. This was correctly ruled a common foul and not a transition take foul. The final example in this section will show a defensive foul that is not a transition take foul, as the foul does not occur during a transition scoring opportunity. Jaylen Brown commits the clear defensive foul by wrapping up the dribbler, Jordan Goodwin. But because Goodwin was not advancing the ball with pace, and his team did not have an advantage based off numbers nor the speed of the play, this should have been ruled a common foul and not a transition take foul. As we detailed at the start of the season, the NBA has implemented more stringent protocols for bench conduct. This first example shows the highlighted bench player, Jordan Poole, walking out onto the court during live play. The officials correctly assessed an immediate technical foul for this violation. Again, players who are not in the game are not permitted to stand on the playing court at any time for any reason. Another aspect of the bench conduct guidelines involves bench players and/or assistant coaches standing in front of their bench for extended periods of time. Here, we will see two examples, back to back, of teams committing this type of violation. The officials will first issue a warning, and then, if the bench standing occurs again, a delay of game warning is assessed, and if it then occurs yet again, a second delay of game would be assessed, which would result in a technical foul. All additional occurrences will incur additional delay of game penalties and corresponding technical fouls. Our final point of education review is respect for the game, and we will start the section by showing an example of a reaction that exceeds the respect for the game guidelines. The highlighted player, Jonathan Kuminga, commits an overt gesture in resentment to the foul call by waving off in the direction of the calling official. This type of overt gesture will be met with a technical foul as it exceeds the respect for the game guidelines, whether it is directed towards an official or not. One final example of a reaction that exceeds the respect for the game guidelines can be seen here. After the made basket by his opponent, the highlighted player, Paul George, throws the ball forcefully against the basket support. Players are not allowed to forcefully throw or kick the ball against the basket support for any reason. Any violation of this rule will result in a technical foul. We will conclude the video by showing a series of examples that show positive interactions between players and officials. The players and the officials that can be seen here communicate in a calm and professional manner, and they maintain their composure. It is the continuing goal of the NBA that all of our players and officials exhibit this type of communication and mutual respect on a night-to-night basis.